I use this AI to find the best investment areas based on its heat map technology. I analyzed hundreds of properties, worked out exactly how much a property is worth, and sorted all the properties from best to worst deals. In this video, I'm going to see if I can use this AI to find an insane property deal using its 3 main features. Each feature will get more powerful as we go along, starting with the heat map. So the first thing you want to do is search an area that you're familiar with. It will zoom in, it will show you the heat map of that area. The red areas are the more expensive, green are cheaper, and purple is somewhere in the middle. And if you click this button here, it will show you the pound per square foot based on the different areas. The reason something like this is very useful is because in any area, you know which ones the expensive areas are and which one the cheaper areas are. For you to find an investment hotspot, you kind of want to be somewhere in the middle, which is the purple zone, where the prices aren't that high, but you're still getting very good rentals. So I'll just make this slightly smaller, and this is really the area I want to target. So then you have to click sources, check Rightmove listings, sales. You can choose between houses and flats. I'll go with flats. You want secondhand, and then you can put in a price parameter. So I'll put in anywhere from £200,000 to, let's say, about £450,000. And I'm in the market for 1-bedroom properties. And then click run search. Now it's found all these different properties which are currently on the market. If you click onto them, it will simply just take you to the Rightmove ad so you can see that. But the most important thing is this information here, the pound per square foot. For this property, it is comparing 146 nearby sales. This property is 40% cheaper than average flat sold price. The average price is 864 square feet. This property is only £679 per square feet, which is significantly cheaper, and therefore that is a good deal. What you can also do is you can click this button here and you can sort by the best deal. So that will then rank all of these properties from the cheapest deals to properties which are just way too expensive. And so this one here, you can see that the average flat sold in this area is £857 per square feet, but this is actually more expensive than that. So you're paying a premium. Now, the one thing I would say though, is you should take this with a slight pinch of salt. Now, sometimes the property might be cheap because it's just not that desirable, not because it's an amazing deal. It's just the property is not worth that much. If I go into this one here, and if we look at the pictures, you can tell from this picture, this is actually an ex-council property. Right now, ex-council properties are generally cheaper than normal properties anyway. And if you scroll down and you click on Street View, you can see it's actually a high-rise ex-council building. So the reason it's 41% cheaper is because it's an ex-council high-rise building. Whereas if we look at some of the ones which are more expensive, like for example, this one here, this is a private property. Now, a private property is always going to be more expensive than an ex-council property. So I think where this tool becomes really powerful is rather than sorting by best to worst deal, it's when you really start to use the filters. If I go back to search and if I put in the same area, borough market, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the circle back to where it was and I'll make the circle significantly bigger. If you go back to sources and apply exactly the same settings again, now rather than 8 properties, it's found 30 properties and it's analyzing those 30 properties. If you click on the first property and you click on the floor plan and open this up, you can see that this property is 497 square feet. What Landworth does, it takes that size and it puts it here, 497 square feet. The reason that becomes very useful is because of the filters. Now, if I click this button again, this time rather than sorting by the best deal, you sort by the largest size. It has put all of the properties that you're interested in from biggest to smallest. Let's say you buy a 1-bedroom flat and you convert it into a 2-bedroom flat in order to make it worth a lot more money. Now, in order to find the ones which are going to work and where you can make a lot of money, in an ideal world, it would be good if you could sort by the biggest ones. And that's exactly what this allows you to do. Because if a flat is too small, you won't be able to convert it into a 2-bedroom flat, and therefore that doesn't work. The problem is, if you were to go in Rightmove and you were to search the same area, you end up with a ton of flats, but you have no idea how big or small they are unless you actually open up the listings, scroll down, you open up the floor plan, you look at the size, and then you can make a decision whether it works or not. Now, this is the one on Tabard Street in London Bridge. If I scroll down on our search, you can see that property is here, Tabard Street, London Bridge. And if I click into it, it's one of the biggest ones, and you can see that this one works. But the problem is a lot of properties on Rightmove don't work because they're too small. So if you keep scrolling down and you look at any of these ones, this is 344 square feet. Even without opening the floor plan, I know this is not going to work because that property is going to be way too small. By the way, the same exercise would apply for something like a HMO. Let's say you're looking to buy a 3-bedroom house and you want to turn it into a 5-bedroom HMO. In an ideal world, the bigger that property is, the more chances there are that you can turn it into a HMO because, well, you have more space to play with. And so very quickly, you can find properties where you can add a lot of value. Now, the final feature is the most powerful, and I've not seen any property softwares which can do that as well as Landworth can. So once we found this property property which is on the market for £385,000, and we've agreed that, well, actually, this has potential. We can turn this from a 1-bedroom flat into a 2-bedroom flat. In order to find out, should we do that or should we not do that, we need to work out, well, what is that 2-bedroom property going to be worth? And that step is the step people find the most challenging. That, well, how do you work out how much a property is actually worth? So if you go back to Landworth and you look at the street, it tells you what the postcode is. So it's SE1 4XZ. So you copy that postcode, you can open up a new tab and click valuation and new valuation report. It's then going to ask you for the exact address. Now, for the sake of this exercise, the address doesn't matter. If you know the address, it helps slightly, but it doesn't matter too much because all of these properties are within the same postcode anyway. So you can simply select any one of them. Now you have to choose, well, what is that property? It's a flat. Now we need to know what the size is. The size you can see here, which is 481 square feet. And the property is a 1-bedroom, but you don't need to select 1-bedroom, you have to select 2-bedroom because by the time you've renovated the property, it's going to be a 2-bedroom flat. Now Landworth thinks that as a 2-bedroom flat of this size in average condition, this property should be worth £402,640. Now I wouldn't rely solely on this number, so what I would do is I would click run searches. So what that does is it's found 33 sold comparables, and now it's analyzing all of those sold comparables. And this is something which is by far the most powerful tool I've ever seen on any property software. It knows that your property is a 2-bedroom flat of 481 square feet and is trying to find similar properties and then is grading them. The first one it's found is Flat 19 Otford House. That is a 2-bedroom flat. Yours is a 2-bedroom flat. This is 495 square feet. Yours is 481 square feet. So basically about the same size. Now Landworth has given this a similarity grade of A at 93%. So it believes this property is 93% similar to the property that you're looking at. Now, if you want to analyze this property further, you can click onto it. And what it does is it has found all the historic listings on Rightmove and on Zoopla every single time this property was on the market, whether it was on for sales, whether it was on for a rental, it finds all of those. And so if you click onto this and open up the pictures, you can see, well, actually, this is in pretty good condition. You can look at the building. This building is an ex-council building. And if we look at your property, that is also an ex-council building. That's another similarity. And then the final thing you can do is you can check this property and then click see map. And as you zoom in and you click on this property, you can see this is where that property is. Now, if I zoom in, this small circle, which is the middle of this pin, that is your postcode, that is your property. This comparable is just down the road. And this property was sold for £455,000. If I go back, you can see that this property was sold 7th of August 2023, so just under a year ago. If this property was sold today, Landworth believes that should be worth £469,924,000 because since August of 2023, which you can see is around here, in this area, prices have actually slightly gone up. So in today's market, that's worth almost £470,000. Now, by the way, if you're struggling to find comparables in your initial search, you can click this button called Find More, and you can increase the radius of the comparable properties from a quarter mile to a half a mile, or look at properties which weren't sold in the last year, but all the way up to the last 2 years. So now let's say you can buy this property for £370,000, which is not much of a discount. It's only £15,000 off. And we think it's worth potentially £470,000. Well, that's £100,000 uplift by turning a 1-bedroom flat into a 2-bedroom flat. Now, I've been using Landworth for the last 12 months and it's great to have them sponsor this video. Now, if you really want to see how powerful this is for yourself, you can click the link in the description below. You can sign up for a completely free trial where you get 25 credits. You can search 25 different areas or you can analyze 25 different properties. And you can very quickly find properties where you can add a lot of value, you work out exactly what they're worth, and hopefully make a lot of money. So give this tool a go and let me know what you think in the comments.